6 p.m. February 2nd, 2026 session of the City of Eau Claire Plan Commission is called to order. If anyone in our audience wants to speak tonight, please complete one of the hearing contact sheets in the back table and give it to one of our planners at the front table here. And I ask that everyone please turn your cell phone off or to silent mode. I'll call the attendance roll. Let's see. Commissioner Brewster.
Here.
Commissioner Reed. Commissioner Lawson.
Here.
Commissioner Holzman.
Here.
Commissioner Leonard.
Here.
Commissioner Zoig.
Here.
And the Vice Chair, Commissioner Erickson, is here, and we have a quorum. 6 members makes a quorum. I'll read our standard introductory statement for how we conduct our meetings. During tonight's meeting, Plan Commission members will be participating in person to deliberate and take action on the agenda items that are before us. The Plan Commission attempts to conduct its public hearings in a relatively informal manner, within the constraint that we must deal with the issues before us in an orderly and business-like fashion. We give the applicant an opportunity to speak first, and then others are each permitted to speak either for or against the proposal. We do request that everyone restrict their comments to the issues before us, avoid unnecessary repetition, and be prudent in the use of time. We want to be sure that we have an adequate time to deal as carefully with the last item on the agenda as we do the first. If you wish to view, not comment on tonight's meeting, it can be viewed through the live event link on the city's homepage under public notices and meetings. This meeting is being recorded at the same location. Now tonight, we will have an open public comment period for items 3, which is an open public comment, and any items that do not appear on tonight's agenda as a public hearing. That would include items 4, 5, and 6, and 7. If there's anyone here that wishes to speak or give a public comment on agenda items 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7, please come forward to the podium if you wish to speak. Anyone coming to the podium who wishes to speak on items 4, 5, or 6. Item 7 is just for future agenda items and public and announcements. Anyone else wishing to speak? Seeing no one wishing to speak, we'll move on to item 4, which is our consent agenda. Our consent agenda includes approval of the January 5th, 2026 Plan Commission minutes and approval of the Old Wells Road easement releases and easement. I'll entertain a motion.
I will move to approve.
I'll second.
Commissioner Holzman moved to approve, and Commissioner Leonard second. I will call the roll. Commissioner Zoig.
Aye.
Commissioner Leonard.
Aye.
Commissioner Holzman.
Aye.
Commissioner Lawson.
Aye.
Commissioner Brewster.
Aye.
And the Vice Chair, Commissioner Erickson, votes aye, and the motion passes. Item number 5 is a comprehensive plan amendment, major update initiation.
Yes, good evening, Plan Commission. Appreciate your time. This is some background material that some of you have actually seen. I know Councilmember Brewster before. We just had a work session with the City Council, but to go through this with you, some of you would be new to the comprehensive planning process or this large update that we're going to undertake here this year into next year. So our current comp plan, if you're not real familiar with it, if you're newer on the board, you can access that on the city planning website. We've done some amendments related to the land development ordinance most recently that I think all of you have been part of that small amendment. This large amendment is going to look at the whole document comprehensively. So again, this is defined by state law. It's a physical plan, looking at land use as the focus. It does delve into economics and social issues as well, cultural things. But it's more of a high-level plan. It's not a regulation. It's not a law, but it's policy that guides land use decisions. It's something that is very important to the Planning Commission in terms of policy. You've known how it interacts with rezoning requests, that it has to be consistent with the comprehensive plan land use designation. And really the main exhibit, if you are trying to explain what this is the future land use map in terms of how the city wants to grow into its future, whether it's redevelopment or outward development. So we'll be updating this map, basically the main exhibit of the plan. And just some reminders, if you're not familiar with it, this plan needs to be consistent with our subdivision ordinances, our comprehensive plan, our zoning ordinances. It may suggest changes as well, and then usually dictates changes for the subdivision code or the zoning code in the future. Our plan doesn't actually have to be consistent with overlapping jurisdictions. We may have a different future than, say, some of the towns and what they want to do. So that'll be to be determined in terms of how that gets played out with the update. We can include areas outside of our plan jurisdiction, which we do currently. And then also it's a guide for official mapping where we want to maybe put a new road in, a new community facility. And it may cover the area, as I mentioned, the extraterritorial review area outside of the city. It's developed by the city allocating a budget, which was done a couple years ago. So here we are now. We're going to go to requests for proposals from our consultants and see what we can get, follow a process that I'll go over more in this public participation plan next after these background slides. And then you guys will, once we get to that stage at the public hearing, you will recommend approval by a resolution, and the council adopts it by an ordinance. So that's a little bit different process-wise, but that's how it gets completed. And we're thinking probably about 20-month process here to go through the whole update. These are elements that typically are included. You're familiar with many of these. I will go into each one of these in the plan, public participation plan. The state law requires 9 elements: land use, transportation, housing, parks, and such. We have additional chapters that key in on neighborhoods, downtown, historic preservation, health, and so on. So we'll be looking at all of these chapters, elements. The 9, of course, are needed. Some of these other crossover type chapters might be more of a theme or kind of a value set through some of the other ones, to be determined. We have other plans that are supposed to be referenced and aligned with, and that would include like our renewable energy action plan, our waterways plan, and things like that, neighborhood plans as well. The comprehensive plan really looks at the physical growth of the city through zoning, subdivision, official mapping, capital improvement planning. So that's how the city council sets aside budgets for road improvements or park facility and such. So again, really physically related to the city's outlay of capital. This is kind of interesting looking back at the history of our comprehensive planning. We started in 1953 with our first comp plan, and then this will be our 7th fast forward to this year. So you can see sort of the evolution of zoning as it relates also with the comprehensive plan. So a rich history of city planning here at the city. The recent zoning alignment was dictated a lot through our existing comprehensive plan in terms of producing more smaller lots, mixed-use development. And so the policies that will be put forward in the new comprehensive plan should work with the new LDO, but also might have some new ideas too. So we'll see how all that plays out. The LDO also strengthens environmental protections, which was called out in the comprehensive plan. So our current comprehensive plan strengths, and this will be my 3rd comprehensive plan here at the city. Also working on plans like the health chapter and the sustainability chapter and the renewable energy action plan. So I've been through this quite a bit, but we have strong plans, very comprehensive. We've had this growth strategy of compact development for over 3 decades. And that's served us well to try to use what we have, leverage our existing infrastructure, while we know that we still are going to grow out into that farmland, out into the county. Great decision-making through the comprehensive plan in terms of laying out where roads should go, parks, utilities, and then public involvement's always been something important. So one of the big, just a flag for you guys, as you probably well know, is how is the city going to grow the next 20, 50 years in this plan, looking outward and inward with our city. So that will be a big question in terms of how we want to grow as a city. And then these other issues and many more will come as we work with the public in terms of what we need to look at for policies. But forecasting our growth and the land supply triggered to that. You're going to hear from Director White soon about industrial needs, land supply in your second presentation. Again, one of the key things with our levy limits is how can we get really the most taxpayer benefit out of that land use so it pays for itself, development pays for itself. Refine the land use plan, as I mentioned before. Another key area is our urban land supply for our sewer service. And that is a plan that's being currently updated by our Regional Plan Commission, and that will help inform our outward growth as well. So those 2 plans will link up pretty well in terms of timing. I had mentioned the capital improvement plan, our neighborhoods, our corridors, our districts, looking at urban area subplans to bundle more neighborhood plans together is a concept for in the new growth areas too, to look at those, to try to make those complete neighborhoods going forward. Neighborhood stabilization, aging buildings, infrastructure, diverse housing, affordability, economic development incentives, and more to come. Any questions before I get into the public participation plan? So that was a quick overview. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. So the public participation plan is required by state law. And we have the Plan Commission approve this. So tonight we're asking for your approval. The City Council just saw this last Tuesday, and they approved it. They gave a few little changes on that, and I'll go over it. But basically, the roadmap here to distill this down is that this is really written in 4 stages, and in each stage we have to have how the public will be at least minimally engaged in that. So that's the bullet points that are listed in each stage. So more engagement could occur. This is just kind of the bare minimum. One of the difficult things with this is that we don't have a consultant selected yet. So we want to also hear from the consultant what things that they might have or innovations, different techniques, but this is sort of the basics. So this will go as part of our request for proposals so the consultant knows our expectations and what you approve tonight. So the stage 1 is really getting organized, forming our advisory committee. Then stage 2 is assessing the existing conditions. How well did our land use map perform? We've got some great analysis that will take place in stage 2. Stage 3 is brainstorming, starting to put forward the objectives and goals that outline the chapter content, and then formulating each chapter content. So that's quite a robust stage 3. And then final drafting, go back out for the public, input on that, then hearings in stage 4 for adoption. So we're expecting probably fall of '27 for this thing to be adopted. Comprehensive Plan Advisory Committee. So we met with council. They like this idea to have maybe a 12 to 15 person working committee that these representatives would be diverse. You might have a neighborhood representative, you might have a developer, environmentalist, educator, healthcare, you can think of it but what they wanted was an application process. So this would be utilized through our citizen resource bank form. We'd have a specific application so that whoever wanted to apply could apply for it. And then staff would review the applications, recommend to what our appointments committee, there's 3 council members. They would take those recommendations back to city council, and then they would approve this list of 12 to 15. So in the past, you guys actually approved this list, but the city council wanted to change that, and they wanted to approve the list. So the last comprehensive plan, you guys actually approved the list, and it was like 52 members. And what we found with that was that there's just too many people, not everybody was committed. But The other ways to engage I'll go through, but this is the committee in terms of what council wanted, and we'll see what you guys think about this committee. And to show how that committee and everything kind of works together with feedback loops is, so you have the project team, which would be basically staff, the key staff, including the city manager, and then you've got yourselves and the council, so you're the ultimate decision makers in the end. We'll come to you on these meetings and give you updates and have probably some discussion items as well in terms of seeking some direction in particular areas that maybe the advisory committee says, well, we want to know what city council and plan commission think about this too. I should mention too that on the committee, we'd like to have 2 members of the plan commission and 2 members from the city council on it. So you have that connection liaison back to that group. So there'd be good feedback loops in terms of being on, for 2 members on the advisory committee, but also regular interface with you at these meetings based off of need. Then you see these other activities, and these are all in the plan. We'll have obviously a project website, but we'll have a community survey. We may use AI in this regard to collect even more feedback with smartphones. That might be a possibility depending on the consultant's ability to use that. Otherwise, we'll just do a standard kind of SurveyMonkey sort of form. Interviews, so we'll have interviews with stakeholders. This could range from particular groups or a particular person, depending on need. Office hours as well. Office hours will be throughout the whole process. Focus groups, you can imagine those might be with particular neighborhoods, developer groups, environmentalists, you name it. Those focus groups will really be keyed in on what that stakeholder group may want to see or their concerns. So those are through each of the 3 processes, or stages, I should say, focus groups, interviews with stakeholders, and office hours. So a lot of opportunity to interface. Then we have workshops and pop-up events, presentations by request, the advisory committee as well. So all of this information is being collected, funneled back into the decision-making bodies. The boards and committees too, those would be your other groups like Transit Commission, Landmarks Commission, Housing Commission, Parks and Waterways, Sustainability Advisory Committee. There's a few other ones, Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Committee. So they will have 3 chances as well throughout each stage for input or assessment, input, and then recommendations depending on their specific chapter. So they'll be very involved as well. So a lot of public engagement. All of this is articulated in the plan. Any questions before I have a couple minor amendments that were requested by the city manager to clarify some things from what the city council gave us feedback on. Any questions about the process?
How do you select which lucky 2 of us are going to be on this committee?
Yeah, that would be for you guys to appoint yourselves. You don't have to do that tonight. So if someone's interested, throwing their name in the ring and then get the votes, and so keep that in mind if that's something. You will have an opportunity again. We'll come back to you as a regular body and talk with you and get your input. But if you'd like to be, we really like 2 plan commissioners to be a part of this. So think about it, and there will be you'll on that one, you don't have to actually sign the application, sign up that way. You would actually be done through voting yourself here on there. And then we would just take those recommendations to council, and they would understand that you guys voted yourself. Like, if you 2 were on it, then, the council would have that. Any other questions?
You said when you expected the meetings would start.
Yeah, so the meetings would probably start in June, and we'll have an expectation agreement on this citizen advisory committee. Is that what you're asking about, or just in general?
I guess when would the commitment start that this whole process is going to happen?
Yeah, May or June. It depends on the consultant. We'd like to select the consultant and have city council approve the contract by the first meeting in April. And then we can get organized, start building out the project website, and then in May have that advisory committee all set. That will take some time with the applications. So hopefully after school is out, we can run with it. And so that will go all over summer. That will go into fall too, so we capture people for about 6 months of assessment and engagement on the front end. Other questions before these little amendments? Okay, so the amendments here, and this was conversation with the council last Tuesday, was trying to give the opportunity for possibly a local community partner or a sub-consultant to help reach underserved voices and audiences. So there's some language in there. Just to be more clear about that, on page 2, I inserted just the language. It says, to achieve desired engagement results, a sub-consultant may be used, or the city can work with community partners to reach wider audiences and groups hard to reach. So I added that. And then on page 2, the city manager or deputy city manager, as they see fit, will be a part of the project team. So that was requested to be added. It was somewhat in there already, but just clarified. And then the other amendment was to detail this advisory committee a little bit more about the application process. So that language on the screen, formal application, applicants being recommended by staff, and then the appointments committee, which I think Councilmember Brewster's on. So there's 3 council members that then forward their recommendations under the city council to approve this list of 12 to 15 members. They'll sign a participation agreement, much like that zoning policy advisory committee, but it'll be different. But they'll sign an expectation agreement that they're expected to probably be at least 10 meetings, 2 to 2.5 hours per meeting, outside homework to review the documents, to come prepared to the meetings, so that the people are really vested in the process, the smaller group. And I had mentioned the 2 members on council and plan commission, and that the city council may be one of the 2 members was requested to put on there, but that's up to council. So those are the changes. Other than that, we seek your approval.
Any other questions? Sir.
Thank you, Chair. So I had a question. Oh, Lord, did I just forget it?
Sorry. It's there. It's right at the tip of my tongue. And it was a good one, too. Actually, can you go back to the previous slide? Maybe that'll
Here, or?
Oh, I remember. Because some people from Plan Commission that might be interested in being on it get rotated through during that process. Do you foresee it being one where, like, if somebody from Plan Commission gets seated on that, they will retain that seat even if they rotate off of Plan? Do you know what I mean? Or would we have to?
Oh, their term ends, say, for
Yeah.
example? Yeah, I mean, you might want to consider that. If you don't want to renew your term, probably don't apply for it. But yeah, I would expect 2 years. So if you're interested in doing it, then ideally we'd like to keep you on it. But if we, for some reason, we need to put somebody different on there, then we would just ask you to revote here for that name. So there could be chances of change for that committee. And if it came to where council needed to reapprove a name on there, we can do that too.
A thought. It's established as a 12 to 15 member committee. To take up Commissioner Brewster's concern, if it were established as a 12-member committee with the possibility of expanding it to 15, if a plan commissioner were to leave, his term would expire and he wouldn't re-up. And perhaps that person could be appointed in addition to the existing members. And of course, another plan commissioner would be appointed in his stead. But if it was if you had some flexibility of, say, between 12 and 15 members, and you initially started with 12, and you had, say, 3 spots that could be filled at some point, because I can just envision not just, it's a long process, and not just Plan Commission members, but other members from the community that may be on the team also, who may be wanting to continue, but for business reasons or other reasons can't, but maybe only be unable to do it for a couple of months and then maybe want to come back. And, you know, it's their knowledge and expertise and their input for, say, half of the process would be valuable to have. Could something like that be organized? I mean, I know
Yeah,
it would probably take an amendment.
Yeah, I mean, the 12 to 15 is that flexibility. So depending on the applicants, you know, if we're too heavy on, let's say, say environmentalists, you know, then maybe it's the smaller number at 12 because we didn't have that many people apply. But what we'd really like is that the expectation is that you're going to serve on this committee the whole way through. But if some unforeseen circumstance comes up, we get that, you know, say another plan commissioner had to take that spot, that's easy enough to change. So it's flexible, but I would say a maximum 15. It kind of depends on, we've never done it this way, so it just kind of depends on who applies. But we want them to understand that this is a commitment, whereas when we had that bigger body of 50 plus, we had a lot of just variations, not people didn't show, you know, we want people to understand, and this participation agreement will lay all that out. It's like, we expect you to be also a champion of this plan after the fact. And also we want you to be that liaison to your representatives so that you're letting them know about what's happening. You can go to their meetings and explain what you're doing, because you're very involved in the process, or potentially staff doesn't even have to be there because that representative is very knowledgeable about the process and can articulate that to that group. So it's flexible.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for staff? Well, then, I will entertain a motion.
I actually do have another quick question, Chair, if that's all right. How do I want to word this? Once we have the RFPs back from different consultants, and are we gonna have a chance to re-examine what the public participation looks like once they have a chance to talk about, you know, strategies that they might use in addition?
Yeah, I would say if it's too far afield from this, then we'll want to come back to have you guys amend this.
Okay.
But I think what's challenging is that we have to put this down. We have to have you guys approve it to get it started. But we also want to be flexible enough that if there's something we missed, we could add that in. And if it's an important enough thing to actually include in this, we can do that and have you amend it. So time will tell.
All right, thank you. I move that we approve this.
You want a second?
I'll second.
Commissioner Brewster moved and Commissioner Leonard second. Call the roll. Commissioner Brewster.
Aye.
Commissioner Lawson.
Aye.
Commissioner Holzman.
Aye.
Commissioner Leonard.
Aye.
Commissioner Zoe.
Aye.
And Vice Chair, Commissioner Erickson votes aye, and motion carries 6-0. Thank you. Now we will move on. Let's see. Item number 5, excess land for parking deck. Mr. Ray. Oops, are
Is
we
that-
on the wrong one? Oh, excuse me.
I said, that was already decided, but we can chat about it.
That was fast, that was on the. Excuse me. Okay, item number 6, industrial.
Thank you, Commissioners. Pleasure to be here tonight. Per the January meeting, when you asked to hear a little bit about some land use questions and some land use presentation, we're coming forward with this is a variation of a presentation I made at a work session to council here several weeks back. So wanted to just kind of go through what we're looking at in terms of industrial land and needed growth. So starting out, just addressing our current industrial parks. Our parks are filling up quickly. This is the Chippewa Valley Industrial Park. It's the only heavy industrial park that we have within the community. It's up by the airport. That red space is the only space that's formally available within that space, and it's actually owned by the Army Corps of Engineers, and they, for the most part, keep telling us they have no interest in selling it because they might need it someday. Don't know for what, don't know why, but it sits and remains undeveloped. Gateway Northwest Industrial Park, this has been the most aggressive and the most common park that we've been using. Most of our expansions have been occurring in this. We are quickly filling that space up. The red spaces on the northern, they're north of 10th Avenue. We are actually in the process. Border States bought one of those on the west side. There's a 5-acre parcel left in there. We are currently splitting that up to do commercial spaces on the frontage road. There's been interest in those spaces. As you look to the other side, the east side, we have a 70-acre parcel that's under contract. We have a 10-acre parcel. That orange parcel of 10 acres is currently under negotiation. We expect all of those spaces to be filled. The remaining space in the orange, part of that's already been sold off for residential on the eastern side of that long orange space there. The rolling topography of that area is actually not real suitable for industrial expansion because of cost and topography. So again, what is our currently most active industrial park is just about out of space as well. And again, this has been all light industrial. Some of the remaining lots that are left, there's one that's privately owned, and they have it was bought prior to our policy of requiring groundbreaking within 12 months of purchasing a site within our Gateway Park, and that lot has sat undeveloped for decades with nothing moving forward and that no recourse to move that project forward. So we are continuing again to look at what's available there. Gateway West, the remaining parcels are under private ownership. They have very specific ideas on which they want that land developed, and we've not seen any projects come forward on either of those two available spaces either. The Sky Park Industrial Center is effectively bought out. The last few sites that are still available are privately owned for build-to-suit projects that are coming forward steadily. So that's really the last of the industrial space that we had available within these spaces. Reason we are concerned about lack of industrial space, we are getting requests regularly, typically in the 20 to 40 acre sites that we are unable to provide responses to. These are requests coming through sources that we use, requests coming down from the state of Wisconsin, the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation, excuse me, folks that are looking at spaces, looking at Wisconsin. We've had to direct advanced manufacturing logistics companies and prospects to other communities. It also affects existing businesses. We've had some businesses who have expressed interest in expanding their space within the community who are unable to find space to grow. Existing businesses that can't grow in the community will start looking elsewhere. So having the availability of doing things like this is important, and this pattern is accelerating. Something that we've seen is a lot of interest and rediscovered interest in the Great Lakes area, particularly Wisconsin, from a manufacturing standpoint. We are getting a lot of new requests, and this whole area is getting a lot of new looks from different manufacturing types. Wisconsin is a known entity with a good labor force, adequate resources, good proximity to distribution networks. This is an ideal place to be. And Eau Claire is one of the fastest growing communities in the state of Wisconsin, and the largest in the northwest or the western quadrant of Wisconsin is getting a hard look from a lot of these companies as a place that has the workforce that would be attractive to an expansion if we can find the land. Again, talking about some of the economic and community impacts, And feel free, if you have any questions that we're going through this presentation, feel free to ask them out. We don't need to wait till the end. If you see something you have a question about, feel free to ask. We'd be happy to answer questions on the fly. Economic and community impacts of industrial employers. They generate strong, stable tax base. High private investment per acre means long-term fiscal health. Losing projects today limits future diversification and revenue. Regional competitors with land are capturing our opportunities. And Eau Claire's workforce and location are strong, but land capacity limits our outcomes. So again, looking to be able to capitalize on what we can offer to employers or existing businesses looking to expand and continue to grow their business in this community, this becomes a very important issue. Growth opportunities. Here are the sectors that we are seeing a lot of strong potential right now. Biomanufacturing. One of the projects that we're working on, we're wrapping up a 3-year recruitment project on an expansion project, Aurora, that is within that industry and brings a very unique product type to here that is growing in the area. Electronics manufacturing, obviously TTM Technologies is the big one. They bought the former Hutchinson TDK building, and their prospects are to add job numbers in that facility at full build out that hasn't been seen by Hutchinson Technologies in a decade or more. So the TTM Technologies is the largest wetboard chip manufacturer in North America and the 4th largest in the world. So that type of entity coming in builds clusters. Companies grow and follow these types of businesses wherever they go. Medical devices. Heartworks is a growing project in the community that's looking at space, and we'll be announcing some closing deals on some space in the community. Their cutting edge technology looks to bring in other medical device supporters that will build off what the techniques that they're developing in research to help potentially grow that segment. Composites and plastics. We have a number of those manufacturers in here that are working with unique products and plastics and creating unique products within that area. The university also has, with their tech program, ideal space to research materials as part of some of their advanced training. So a university partner in that area becomes a very attractive piece for folks who are testing materials for strengthened product lines and having the university as a potential partner there. Food manufacturing. We have a number of food manufacturers in the community, and they are looking to grow that element. And again, advanced light manufacturing. A lot of the manufacturing that we have here are developing and improving automation. It is a little bit of a spinoff of not enough folks going into blue collar trade type skills or manufacturing type skills. So automation is growing. That does mean that the workforce that fills these plants is more trained. They have more advanced training and are paid much higher wages. So again, that type of advanced light manufacturing is an attraction for a community. It helps grow the overall wage base for a community. So these are our strong potentials that we're looking at. Light manufacturing parks are what we are focusing on. They are ideally for the types of businesses that we referenced. It's a good fit for the community. You don't typically see university communities or ones that also have big medical business with a strong heavy industrial base. Heavy industrial manufacturing tends to bring more noise, more odor, more issues that you can tell a big heavy manufacturing community when you walk into it. When you show up in that community, you step out the door and you smell it no matter where you are. Rendering plants and things like that. Not attractive to this community, would detract from what this community is trying to achieve. So we are focusing on light manufacturing spaces. It's compatible with community expectations in nearby commercial areas, lower environmental impacts, and flexible site designs. Suitable for emerging industries requiring scalable space, and data centers are a conditional use within light industrial parks. That was one of the things that was brought up at the meeting last week, is to talk a little bit more about those. So we're going to dive into that one a little bit. Data centers are catching a lot of attention right now. The project in Menominee caught attention. There's Port of Washington. DeForest just turned down a project. There's a project looking at Janesville, Beaver Dam. There's a number of them being looked at right now. There are 45 operating data centers in the state of Wisconsin have been operating for a number of years here. A little basic information about data centers. These are Often they're typically located in industrial parks. Data centers are secure facilities that store and process digital information. AI is what's catching a lot of the attention now, and a lot of the big centers are geared towards AI technology, but it's not AI that's only driving this industry. Anything that's stored in the cloud has a data center somewhere that's storing that data. Some quick facts about data centers: among the highest private investment per acre of any land use. Very low traffic and employment intensity. So for an area that is maybe tight on employment base, not be able to fill huge jobs. These are not real high job creators, but they are very high wage creators, and they pull in technology and folks that might also be going in other areas. So they provide a different type of technology base or employment options within the community. Significant energy and redundancy needs, strong national growth due to cloud computing and digital infrastructure demand. Want to hit a little bit about industry changes, because what we hear in the media is a lot about why communities don't want them, they don't want to talk about them. And I would add now that we don't have an active data center project looking at Eau Claire. But Wisconsin as a whole, and as we know, because of the Menominee project, Chippewa Valley is getting looked at by them, so we felt this is important to start introducing the conversation to the community. Data center designs have changed over the last decade. The three most common things you hear about communities that are concerned about data centers are the water usage, the cost of energy and potentially raising utilities, and the noise. So we're just going to address some of those. The high water use that everybody really gets concerned about was from a technology that was abandoned a decade ago. That was evaporative pad cooling, where they would flood massive amounts of water across evaporative pads for outdoor evaporation to cool their systems. These are the facilities that use the 1 million gallons a day type of thing, or 2 million gallons a day. They haven't used those systems for a decade. They were extremely expensive, they were extremely hard to manage, and they were very inefficient. Modern systems use closed loops, so think the cooling system in your car. Water's pulled in and that's recirculated through the system over and over again, cooled down within closed systems, so it's not constantly having to replenish that. The newest technology, and that is one of the projects that's being looked on the east side of the state, they use zero water in their cooling, so the technology is actually moving past using any water at all. The only water you'll see in those plants are tied with sanitary that's used for your employee uses, bathrooms, restrooms, etc. So that is a change in the system that is reflected, that's not always reflected in some of the concerns we hear about these facilities. Something I also want to point out too, a lot of these facilities that are still using the closed loop are using gray water. So they're not pulling fresh drinking water, they're pulling gray water out of your treatment facilities. It doesn't need to be clean drinking water that goes through these systems. This is a great use for water that's had some use already and can still provide some cooling capacity. The other next thing you hear oftentimes about energy rates and concerns that, a data center comes in, they're going to drive up all utility rates. The state of Wisconsin law and the Constitution does not prohibit that. They cannot, pardon?
Not allowed.
Yeah, that's right, it's not allowed. It is, did I say it?
Does not prohibit.
Oh, they do prohibit that. So rates are set by a state organization that have to be petitioned, and the state law says that a energy provider cannot take the cost to provide energy to a customer and spread that over all their other customers. It has to be built within their rate system. So the customer that's coming on has to pay for those costs, has to cover their own expenses. So there are built-in securities within Wisconsin's process that don't see rampant energy rate increases based on data center usage. Other states do see that, so it is a problem that does occur in other areas, but Wisconsin is not one of those areas that becomes an issue. And also the facilities, they're much bigger than they were, but in terms of energy efficiency, they're getting much more efficient than they were 10 years ago. So they're bigger in scale, but they're using energy more efficiently than they did in the past. One of the last ones we always hear is noise concerns. That has been an issue in communities, particularly in the older technology. A lot of times that community, it was self-inflicted. It's an aspect of poor city planning. The cities that I've seen that oftentimes have residents complaining about noise issue is because the city went in and approved a zoning change from a commercial district to an industrial district specifically to allow a data center into that area. If you're changing commercial to industrial, that very likely places industrial centers near residential spaces, which they should never have planned and done properly in the first place. If these are built out in industrial areas that are industrial design, it's no different than any other manufacturing going on in these facilities and is not a noise concern. And new technology has a lot of these plants running quietly and you don't hear any noise. It was always kind of a hum or a vibration is what you hear people talk about. And under new technology, most of that is going away as well. So it's a changing industry. That's what I want to hit as far as some basics on the data centers. And again, our need for industrial space. Would open it up for any questions.
Thanks. I guess I got one right away. So because of the limited number of employees that would be at a data center, do we have any like numbers in terms of what like the tax benefit would be for a data center versus like a different industrial use for the same land?
So communities look at it because it is property tax that comes with data centers. They are highly taxed from a property tax standpoint. Industrial projects, there's a huge number of state tax breaks that are built into industrial expansions. So they pay a very limited industrial space compared to other comparable spaces. Industrial or data centers don't. They are highly taxable space. We're trying to get we're doing some research trying to get some more data on what that might look like, but that's why communities love them. They come in, they pay a huge amount of property tax across the life of the project.
Thank you, Chair. You know, thinking about like the edges of the city, I'm struggling to come up with more than just a couple places that might be suitable for something like this. Do you have anything in mind where you're, well, I guess without spilling the beans and whatever, like where do you see us, you know, potentially putting together another industrial park, and how might that work, and how does that?
Yeah, we are looking at a variety of areas. There are development groups that have space that are looking at that. This will actually be part of the comp plan process when you talk about land uses, defining where do we see industrial park growth, where do we see commercial park residential growth on the fringes of the community. The biggest piece they're noted for is large parcels. The requests you're seeing when you look at projects that have occurred in other communities are coming. And ignore Port Washington. Port Washington's kind of the exception at 1,900 acres. Most of them are coming in at like 3 to 5. So this is the space they're looking for. The Menominee project, I believe, was 300 acres. We've seen most of the ones that have been coming out in the media have been in somewhere in that area. It's really up to the project to define what their space is, what their space needs is, what they're willing to pay for land, what sort of topography they're willing to deal with. Are they willing to deal with farmland that maybe takes a little additional conditioning for site development? So we kind of leave that driven by the project should one come to us. But it's definitely something we take into account, and it would have to be in line with what our comprehensive plan identifies as future land growth.
Thank you. So in conversations with business owners and industrial, there's always been a need for industrial in here. They aren't able to find locations. I mean, you can look at Menominee and their north side on exit 45, what they're doing up there, and that's almost done, honestly.
Yep.
The growth. And I feel Eau Claire is lacking on industrial. We're not getting those jobs we need in this community. We're accepting retail, which is minimum wage jobs in here, and not accepting larger companies who are gonna hire, 100 people at $30 plus an hour or $40 an hour. And hopefully with this comprehensive plan, we can address this sooner than later before we are left in the dust, per se, and we're just a retail hub instead of an actually growing city to the next level we need. So hopefully those industrial lots are already seen, because we do need them in this city. So hopefully our comprehensive plan really addresses that.
That's our intent, is to make sure that is part of the conversation as we move forward. Talking with inspection manager or planning manager Noel and the team, in the past, the comp plan, particularly in the fringe area, has really just kind of went along, well, whatever the township said, that's fine with us. We're going to take a much harder look at what the community needs are in our growth areas and what the community needs to continue to grow and provide jobs to the rest of the Chippewa Valley as we move forward. So that will be part of the discussions. From a more standpoint base, we are looking at an industrial user space. We're not focusing on any particular user or industry. There are a few things that we looked at for that are kind of common criteria. Most manufacturers, particularly larger manufacturers, want a site within 3 to 5 miles of a 4-lane highway for quick in and out egress of trucks and freight as part of their plan. They are looking for, the communities they want to be within a certain distance of a regional airport or hub. Most often we hear a reference of 90 minutes to an international airport or some sort of transit space, which we meet those criteria. Maybe some that are looking for rail. We don't have any rail serve sites right now, so rail service would be nice. The rail ebbs and flows in an industrial standpoint. In a past life, I brokered rail freight for a large international company, and fuel costs drove what shipped rail versus not shipping rail as much as anything. Every rail car replaces 3 semis on the road, so it's an efficiency creator by being able to have rail access. When the fuel gets higher, the distance that they're willing to shift over from rail gets shorter and shorter. When it comes to how far away from the home operation do you shift from trucking to rail service? Higher the fuel is, the closer that range gets. It gets more and more cost effective to do rail. The only deciding factor that gets challenging for business is lead times. Rail is a slower shipper, so if you're relying on moving stuff like instantly and daily, rail's not for you. But for some folks that they can put something and know it's going to sit in transit for 6 weeks, going through the rail process because they can ship large volumes or bring in large volumes, it's a key point. And being able to offer rail serve sites or access to sites, we just turned down 2 in the last 4 months or so, both looking for rail service manufacturing sites, and we're interested in this area. So that's another factor that we're looking at, see if that's an amenity we can potentially provide in the future industrial space.
Thank you, Chair. Are we seeing, businesses that leave, are we seeing many of them leaving existing industrial sites, and are we seeing those sites getting picked up by other businesses relatively quickly?
The ones that are transitioning are moving pretty quick. The TTM Technologies purchase of Hutchinson, that was concerning when they closed. When they were shutting down, we knew that was a big space. That was over 800,000 square feet of space. If you looked at TTM's site, as the 4th largest in the world in their field, their largest production site prior to this was 107,000 square feet of production space in New York. So they basically octupled their production space in one purchase over their next largest plant. So it's positive to see that type of potential growth. And planning, they're planning for lots of expansion down the road by buying something that large. We are seeing our local manufacturers also look how they can expand within site, how they can get efficient use of space. Like I said, the ones that do turnover tend to stay turned over fairly quickly. We try and keep up on those, and we offer them out as available sites when we can. We do see a lot of requests coming in from companies that are looking for an existing structure because they're trying to get to market quickly. And I don't know what they expect. There's just not a lot of 100 and 200,000 square foot buildings just hanging around waiting for somebody to come in and take it. We rarely have an existing building that we can offer to some of these projects that are coming forward. So we focus on greenfield sites and how we can develop faster in these areas.
Vice Chair has a question. Back to the data center item. Are most of these data centers single story?
They are a tall single story.
Right.
You'll see them in the, I'm trying to think of the number, probably somewhere in the 45-foot range. Most of them, though, are single story within there, just tall ceilings. You may see some mezzanine or some second story, but you're not seeing a lot of going vertical taller than that.
Is that an issue with the way the industry works, or is that simply the preferred style, or is there options for multi-story type structures?
That's a great question. That's something we're still in the process of trying to learn more about the industry. We've heard reports of some of the big abandoned multi-story, skyscrapers, for better term, like in the Twin Cities and some of these areas that have been, they've been abandoned from offices with the shift to work from home, are starting to offer some of these things out as multi-tiered data centers. Don't know if it's a specific design reason that drives that. It tends to just be the industry standard. But it's something that we're still educating ourselves on, as well as what these designs look like. It could be that changing technology, particularly on the cooling side, might see changes in the design of the facilities as well, particularly if you're getting away from water cooling systems.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Appreciate the time.
We don't have anything to vote on with this, right?
Nope, this is just an informational piece. We are likely to see a lot more of these discussions come out. We're probably looking to start, getting some information out to the community, just as a learning process and a learning about an industry that may have an interest in this area, and then kind of see where that goes from there. But thank you for your interest and time. And if you have any additional questions, feel free to reach out to me. Happy to answer any other questions you might have. So.
This
Thank
will
you.
be an important discussion in the comprehensive plan, so.
Yes, it will.
I'm sure we will be discussing it at length in the future. Thank you. Future agenda items and announcements.
We don't have much for you. The next meeting is March 2nd. We'll have some minor cleanups with the LDO. Other than that, we have one site plan coming your way. So, but yeah, that's what we know right now for your next meeting. Other than that, do you have any other updates? That's it.
Thank you. We've completed all the items on our agenda, and we are adjourned.